Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming once again on this Google Plus Hangout for Channels. I am Victor, and today we're looking at a move for some people from the part of country of Nigeria that want to, so to speak, now get independence and be removed from the entity called Nigeria. But just joining me to look at this, we have Caro Robani, who's calling from London in England. Caro, good afternoon, and thanks for coming on the program. Great. Also joining me is Najib Bello. Najib is in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. Najib, good afternoon and thanks for coming on the board.
Good afternoon, Victor. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right, and also we have Oyis Yahya Yakubu, who is in Istanbul. That's in Turkey, far away. I don't even know. Is it Europe or Asia? I mean, that country is just in between. But
A
yes.
little, a little bit of both.
All right, great. Let's leave it at a little bit of both. But let me just begin with you. I mean, in the past years now, let's say looking at starting from in the early 2000s, there's been a lot of insecurity issues coming on board in Nigeria, starting with Boko Haram. And even before then, there was the issue of Niger Delta. And then, just recently, a group from the eastern part of Nigeria saying they want to go away. They want to take their own part of the country and leave. And all this boils down to the issue of resource control or being left out of the whole national picture now, so to speak, as it were in the Boko Haram case as well as the Niger Delta issue. But what do you think about this? I mean, do you think this is a feasible or do you think this is a just cause to fight for?
Are you referring to myself,
Yes,
Victor?
yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, always, I'm referring to you.
Okay, I will prefer if you address me as Yahya.
Okay, good. All
Okay.
right.
First of all, I will say that this issue of secession is not only alien to Africans. We have had such issue of Crimea in the past, and even in Spain now, the country has gone to secede. But I think for Nigeria, any campaign against the corporate existence of Nigeria as a nation state, whether in the name of restructuring or secession, is marked by the refusal to address some geographical compactness and interdependence of the Nigerian state. Because I think we are so much intertwined geographically, even the notion of secession is not feasible. Because if you want to secede, I was born and brought up in the north. Most of the prominent ventures in the north today are owned by the people from the east who want to secede. So how do you transfer this capital? How do you move this capital? Their property, their immobile capital. How do you move this? How do you reshuffle this? How do you balance this equation financially? And also, I will say that the basis, in my opinion, the basis of this call for secession it shows that the weakness in the state's capacity. It shows the weakness of Nigeria as a state in its failure and its inability to provide socially, economically, and political instability for all round boundaries of the country. So the state has a role to play in this secession, and the people clamoring for this secession whom feel they are marginalized, in my opinion, in my opinion they are not marginalized, it is a baseless call because I don't see any reason logically why we should call for secession of Nigeria. In this period in time, we are facing a lot of problems of insecurity economically. So this has been exploited by the political elites in the eastern part of Nigeria. They want to, in my opinion, this is what I call ethnic mobilization. They mobilize the ethnic people whom are less privileged in the society, the least educated people. They mobilize these people. I am your person. I am your brother. We are from the same place. If I represent you, I give you better thing. In democracy, we don't have a right to represent people based on ethnicity. We represent people based on an entity, as a country, as a nation state. So the call for secession is not a visible cause, in my opinion. I respect other people's opinion who want to secede and leave Nigeria, but it's not a visible cause. This is the time we should democratize, build on our democracy, and seek ways to consolidate upon it instead of talking about secession.
All right, very well, Oyes. I'll come back to you in a bit, but let me just come over to Najib. Najib, you just heard Oyes. Oyes is saying that he believes that this is a time for us to democratize, and he also gave a bit of reasons why he thinks secession, talking about the economically, thinking of how to move the economic capital of the people who want to move from the part of Nigeria to their own part now. He's thinking, I mean, he says he was born and bred in the northern part of the country, and most of the investments in that part of the country is owned by people from that region. And he's just thinking, how will they move all these from where it is at the moment to where they want to move to? But what do you make of it? Do you agree with, oh yes, I mean, Yahaya, sorry, I beg your pardon, Yahaya. Do you agree with Yahaya on this, or do you have a different view?
Well, Yahaya has he just gave like an overview of what's happening and his opinion of the way things should be. Personally, we're in a democracy, and I've always supported democratic way of doing things. If people feel they don't want to belong to a body anymore, they are free to leave, but they have to they have to do such a thing. They have to leave in a democratic way, in a proper way. I don't think the way to live a nation is to go to the streets and be protesting, maybe violently, because I hear people are being killed. You can't be protesting peacefully and someone will just come and start shooting you. So I don't think the way to achieve this thing is via protest, street protest, sending all sorts of violent messages. A friend of mine was in Delta State for a wedding last weekend, and he listened to, in a bus he was in, they played, they tuned to the radio Biafra, and the kind of crazy words he said he heard on that radio station. I don't think that's the way to achieve this goal. If you want to separate, there was a time Nigeria felt, oh, we want to be independent from the British. And we didn't just go to the streets of Britain or some other place to be running around the place. We went to our parliament. Our parliamentarians said, Britain, we voted, we don't want to be part of this anymore. And the British, they looked at it and they accepted, they gave a timeline. So, like I've said it severally on different platforms. If people want to leave a country, they tell their senators, they tell their representatives to go to the Senate, move a motion, support the motion, and let's see how it goes. But not through street protests, not through sending violent messages all around the place. So that's my own opinion.
All right, great. Najib, thank you for that. That's your own opinion, like you said, and also Yahya also said that's his own opinion. But in the meantime, while you were saying that, Godi Bogu joined us. Godi, good afternoon, and thank you for coming on board. You're calling from Prague. That's in Czech Republic. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. So I'll be coming back to you in a bit, but let me just come back to Caro. Caro, you heard Yahya and you also heard Najib. Yahya is saying, okay, it's not a good one. Najib is saying, okay, yes, they can, but they have to follow a particular process. But how would you now rate how the Nigerian government has gone about it? I mean, last 2 weeks or so, the director, Army Public Relations, acting director actually, Colonel Sani Usman, came out and made an unequivocal statement saying that people shouldn't come out to protest. It was also banned in River States. The pro-Biafran protests were banned in River State. There's been a lot of reactions from the Nigerian government. Apart from how you think this should be done, whether it should go on or not, how do you think the government has reacted so far?
This is a democracy. Nigeria operates a democratic system, and in the democracy, people are allowed to voice their opinions or grievances, and that's what democracy is. And whether we agree with them or not, but everyone is allowed to speak up. But then the manner at which you speak or the things that you say will obviously then affect or talk, or then it would show where things are going. And with the whole case of Biafra and the recent agitations of Biafra, and the thing is that people who don't learn from history are condemned by history. they have come out unequivocally, and it's almost like a treason. If you listen to the Radio Biafra and the kind of messages they've been spewing, it's a message that calls for violence, that calls for their supporters to take arms against the government of Nigeria. And take arms against the people of Nigeria, and those who are against their agitation, they should take arms against them, and that's very wrong. And the job of the security forces of Nigeria their job is to maintain peace and stability, and against any external force, internal external force in Nigeria, against the unity of Nigeria, they should stand against. And that's what exactly the DSS or the military and spokesperson has said, because they are meant to meant to kind of ensure that citizens are law abiding. If people want to secede from Nigeria for whatever reason, even though I don't agree with it, for whatever reason, there are right channels to go through. There are right things that you should go through. Recently in the UK, there was a referendum that Scotland wanted to secede from the United Kingdom, but then there was a referendum, and then they voted, and they were like, okay, we want to stay with the UK, and that was the end of it. If they want to do that, let them follow the right channels. Calling for violence is the wrong thing, and it will only get the opposite reaction from the Nigerian government. No government will sit down with its arms behind the back and just say, okay, because they've gone on the streets and they are being violent, and then therefore they are calling for violence, therefore let's give them what they want. It's never going to happen. Their job is to make sure that there's security within the society, within the country, and they're going to ensure that they do that. If they want Biafra, then they should go through the right channels and go through the right channels of communication. If there was to be a referendum, fair enough. But then the way it just looks like come together and try to just manipulate and just get money from whatever reasons. But if they want it, let them go through right channels. If there is a referendum, if there will be one, whether they accept it or not, then that's another issue. But then they've totally gone in the wrong way, and I don't think that any government will be ready to listen to them with the way they've gone about it, causing violence around the country.
All right, very well, Caro. You also are saying that they can go, but there is a proper channel to follow. But Gotti, let me just come back to you. You came on board when Caro was just making his statement. But then, before then, Najib and Yahya had been talking about this thing, expressing their own views. Let me not belabor the whole thing with their own views. Let me just come to you and get your own reaction. What do you think about this? Do you think it's a just cause? Do you think it's a worthy fight? Do you think it's something that will see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I think that the fight or this agitation for seceding from Nigeria has been on for a while. The Biafran cause, according to those who have actually are propagating this all kinds of theory, have been on for a while, and they wanted to actually leave the Nigerian territory and become a country of their own. But I think that, like Kara has said, that this has actually been followed in the wrong way. Now, like, we are now in a democratic system, and everyone actually has a right to air their own view. But then you cannot begin to call for war and actually ask for arms to be given to you, and actually selling falsehoods and lies to the people in order to be able to actualize your aim of wanting to be an independent nation. It seems that Nigerians, we do actually do not remember history, and this is the reason why we are never ever able to correct certain things, which when we find ourselves in a situation as peculiar as this. Now, someone will come, those who actually are pro the Biafra movement will come and say all kinds of things that would want me to actually believe in, because they have their right. But I actually do have my own view as regards to this cause, and I think that this actually is an ill-fated movement, because the people who actually are trying to fight for Biafra themselves don't seem organized. There are two different factions. There is the Masob movement and there is the IPOB movement, and they seems to be actually contradicting themselves. So one is accusing the other one as being criminal, and the other one is accusing the other one as being, a tout or whatever they are accusing themselves. So there is not a united front in that regard. Secondly, there is a political undertone to it. Now, the political leaders of the region, and now, first of all, the question is, who are the Biafrans? Because there seems not to be a defined um, territory or geography that says that these people who are fighting for Biafra belongs to this group. Because when I listen to the messages, which are very, very hateful, and also they try to actually identify the group that actually should belong to them, it seems to me that this is a cause that would actually, with a battle that would never be won. Because you cannot be mentioning a man who is from Igala when you cannot speak his language. You cannot be mentioning a man who is from somewhere in Delta when you cannot speak his language, and then you believe that they actually are part of your ethnic group and they should actually belong to your fight. And you go to their states, and the people in that state are not in support of the fight for this actualization of this movement. And you're actually disturbing the peace of that place, wanting to enforce on the people that they actually should belong to your group or your country. I mean, this is actually is where the security agencies should. I think that they are doing quite well to quench the potential crisis that is going to be blown up if the thing is not being under control, kept under control. I think that for me, the cause of Biafra is really ill motivated, not properly articulated. If there is a honest fight, a honest quest for a Biafra state, the people who are following it and the method who they are actually pursuing about it, it's completely wrong, because they actually would not achieve anything under the system. Let me just digress a bit, because it seems, like I mentioned, history. Now, prior to this administration coming in, the people from all regions assembled under the national conference. And part of the thing which the outgone administration was supposed to do were to implement the reports of the conference, which would take into consideration the agitations of each ethnic nationality trying to be identified as part of the entity called Nigeria. Because despite that we are now talking about only of the people shouting Biafra, there are also other smaller cries in other regions, like the Niger Delta, the people in the north, and the people, some group as well. We have seen the OPC tries to actually, pursue a different kind of agenda. So, and then the all kinds of other groups which will come, the Afenifere, the Arewa, everyone has actually been talking about marginalization, has been talking about not being part of the Nigeria. And we ask ourselves, since the British handed over the country to us, then who has actually been part of Nigeria? Because there has not been any region that has not been part of the country, part of the administration of the country, part of anything that has made the country where gotten us where we are today. And some people will still come up and say that they have not been fully represented, and that is the reason why they are fighting to be out of this system. And you ask yourself, okay, let us look at it. Let us identify the leadership of this country from the 1960s until now. Where has most of the people come from? The people of the Biafra, say that they have never been. One of their reasons lies that they had not been recognized fully and not been given the due, what they since after the war. There has not been any real people from the region that has occupied most sensitive positions. And you say, okay, what is a sensitive position? What is a position that actually you give to someone from this region that they will be satisfied that they are part and parcel of the region called Nigeria? So if we begin to look at those things, you find out that every agitation for every call is just a political / criminal and ill-motivated idea that is, they try to use it because perhaps if you start up something, the government will call you and settle the few people who are the leaders of this group, and everybody will become a billionaire overnight because they are fighting for something. And then the rest of the people who they have used to start up this crisis will go back to start hunting for their daily bread, and some of them will die along the way. And those who actually pushed them into this kind of warfare and this kind of fight actually becomes flyers of private jets and having their kids everywhere. And then you say that the question then becomes, okay, what is the end of all this? When is it going to be? So I think that our security agencies really, first of all, recognize the fact that, okay, people have the right to agitate, have the right to cry for something, but then they also have a duty to play to make sure that those who are living in the midst of these groups that are fighting for something are also protected, and their lives are secured, properties are secured. So I wouldn't fault them if they begin to arrest people, because you cannot, for the fact that you want to be free from the country which I accept that I want to be part of, then you come to destroy my peace of life because you want me to recognize the fact that you are actually fighting for something which you believe in. So for me, there is really no defined uh, 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 how to say channel for the current agitators of this fight to go about achieving what they want to achieve, because there is no unity of purpose, and it is all, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, very well, Gordy, you're always a man of many words. You always keep it very lengthy. But Yakubu, let me come back to you. Now, I mean, if I'm correct, these people we're talking about now already have they have embassies outside Nigeria. I mean, do you think their cry isn't being supported? I mean, because if you look at the case, like Harry said, Scotland, you also made mention of Crimea and Ukraine. I mean, and here they are. They're already hoisting flags. They're having their embassies. They have a radio station. Don't you think they have done enough, at least, to merit their movement?
I don't think these are legitimate, even though they are being recognized by some sections. I don't think it is legitimate. And as a student of political science, in my candid opinion, I have four major points of which I have concluded as the reasons why we continue having notions of secession. We don't want to be part of Nigeria. First of all, I will talk about the political lapses. The social economic state of the country is in a very poor state. Then I will dwell on federalism, the federal system we operate in Nigeria. Nigeria operates a centralized federal system where the states depend on the federal government for their budget. If we had a decentralized central system whereby every state, it's revenue imperative, they raise their own revenue, they use this revenue to implement their own policies. If any section of the country is undeveloped, they have they hold the leaders of that region accountable, not the federal government. So there's a whole setup of the arbitrary borders we inherited from the colonial masters, and the system of government. The federal government generates roughly over 75% of the revenue of the Nigerian state. If these states had the imperative to generate their own revenue internally or externally in whatever means, they can implement policies that suits this region. For example, you cannot be in Abuja and know what the people in Imo need. Do you understand? The people in Imo know what they need in Imo. You cannot be in Abuja and decide for them. So, in my opinion, a decentralized federal system it might likely bring down these notions of cessation or marginalization or whatsoever, and it all boils down to resource control. Nigeria is one of the biggest oil producing country in Africa, and in democracy there has been different theses and arguments that democracy doesn't really flourish in oil producing states. The fact that we depend on oil for our revenue means a whole chunk of the money of our revenue generated goes to the federal government, and they decide how it is being disbursed. Okay? And the last point I will touch on is uneven distribution of wealth. If you check the income disparity gap in Nigeria, it is one of the highest in the world. The income gap between the rich and the poor, it is it is as wide as you can imagine. So it is easy to use ethnicity as a tool to mobilize these people. There's a theory of social movement. You can use ethnicity to mobilize people in less developing or developing democracies. This is one of the major tools that have continued to undermine our efforts to democratize. As the most populous black nation, as the biggest economy in Africa, ethnicity has continued to divide us. They use this, it is undermining our chances of being a fully democratic nation. I wouldn't call Nigeria a democracy. I will call it a semi-democracy because we cannot air our views. And lastly, the channel in which, as my colleague earlier stated, the channel in which these people are adopting to actualize their aspirations of nationalism of a Biafran state, it goes against the laws of the constitution. No, only the state has the authority to legitimize or monopolize the use of force through its police institution or the military. If you take up arms and you say you want to fight for your own cessation, it means you're a criminal against the state. You should make a referendum. People vote. We want to go. We want to stay. It's as simple as that. If you take up arms, automatically you're a criminal, because only the state has such authority to monopolize the use of legitimate force. So first of all, there are different factions who want this Biafran issue. And secondly, these factions are taking up arms. I saw a video or a photo on the internet with one of the leader, the arrested guy with a rifle. And I actually don't listen to this Biafran radio because I don't feel these causes are legitimate. If you want to secede, you go for a referendum. This is how it is done in any democratic entity. So first of all, they need to channel their requests through the proper channels. Secondly, make a referendum. The Nigerians won't vote for this. If you get the votes, if you get the threshold of the votes you need, you go. If you don't get the threshold, you stay. If you make a problem, the federal government has any right, has all the legitimacy and authority to use force to defend this entity as a nation. Nigeria is going through a lot of restructuring now. We have issues of Boko Haram insecurity. We have economic insecurity. The value of our currency is going down. The least we need to worry about now is Biafra. And one question I always ponder about is why in the last 8 years we had little or nothing about cessation of Biafra. Why is it just coming now? The deputy senate president is from that region, so you cannot be said to be marginalized. You are occupying the second most valuable seat in the red chambers. You are not marginalized in any ways. You have held positions of ministers of high profile offices. You've had positions of lucrative offices. So when you say you're marginalized, you should hold your political elites responsible for marginalizing you. You cannot hold the federal government responsible because you have an allocation. It's allocated to your state every month, and the disbursement of this allocation boils down to your own political elites. So you should hold your elite accountable and not try to cause more, bring more problems within the entity. So in my opinion, it is illegitimate. It is uncalled for. These people are trespassing. It is a treason to raise up arms against the state. It is written in the Nigerian constitution, you cannot raise up arms against the state, which makes you a criminal. If you want a cessation, go for a referendum. It's like my colleague earlier stated, it happened in the United Kingdom, it happened in Crimea. They're agitating for same. In Catalans, the Barcelonans want to secede. They're not taking up arms, they want a referendum. So the first channel, first of all, you clamor and try to mobilize people for a referendum. You don't mobilize jobless people on the street, again, socio-economic factor. You don't mobilize jobless people on the street and pay them peanuts to come and protest. You and I know how these people are brought about to come and make this protest. So the least we need now is disruption of peace and stability of Nigeria as a nation state, and whichever group, irrespective of which region it comes from, which is a threat to the state, I support any legitimate use of force to suppress this group. The government has the right and the legitimacy to adopt any means necessary to stabilize these people. So this is my opinion.
All right, very well. Always, you still maintain your position, saying that yes, they should go through a referendum on that if they want to secede, and also you are behind the federal government to use any kind of force to suppress such movements that, according to you, will disrupt the peace of the country.
Because if you take up arms against the state, it means you're a criminal. You don't take up arms in a democratic. We have channels for mediation. We have a Senate. You propose a bill to the Senate. You propose a bill. It is debated on the House. If it passes through first chambers, the second chambers, then we go to a referendum. This is how it is done in any democratic entity. We don't take up arms.
All right, very well. Najib, let me just come to you now, and I'll take you back to the amalgamation of Nigeria back then in 1914. You know, the amalgamation of Nigeria, Northern, Southern protectorates, and all that. And people are saying Nigeria was even a country that was forcefully, you know, a country of people that were forcefully put together. Do you think what is happening now is a fallout of that forceful amalgamation, of that forceful coming together, you know, and being as a country?
There's an issue, the forceful amalgamation of Nigeria by the British is an issue we need to look into. But the problem arising right now by some people saying, oh, they want their own, it has nothing to do with that. It is It's something being run by some selfish people. They are selling passports. They are trying to make money. They are waiting for maybe the president to call them and say, what do you really want? You know, it's those kind of people. It has nothing to do with the real problems. There are problems with Europeans coming and putting Africans, you know, into a map together, but it has nothing to do with the agitations we are having right now. So I think we as Africans, we have the right to look at the way Europe divided us or put us together and now say, okay, how do we separate ourselves, or how do we even come together? Why people are not even talking about, okay, why don't Niger Republic and Nigeria merge together? People are not even talking about that. All we say is, oh, let's separate this, let's separate that. But anyway, that aside, I was going to talk about something Godi mentioned. Godi mentioned the map that these separatists are peddling around. They took a map and they didn't even talk to the people, some of the people in these regions. They just drew a map and, you know, said this is part of the movement, this is part of the movement. If you really have a genuine cause, the first thing you start with, because I'm doing such a thing right now, you write a proposal to the people around, the people you feel have interest in this thing you are trying to do. You write a proposal, make it beautiful, give a graphic artist and they make it nice, and you send it out to people and say, look at what I want and why this thing is beneficial. You have benefits of the proposal, you have how you will carry out the methods and techniques for its success. You understand? When you put out this kind of proposal, people will now say, oh, I like this thing. You understand? Like if you go to the Senate, if you send your senators to the Senate, their votes alone cannot get you what you want. So there's a proposal they will lobby to other senators. They will lobby to a senator representing Kebbi and say, see, this is why my people need to go to their own country. It will be of benefit to you. It will be of benefit to us. We can still interact and trade and move around even as separate countries. You understand? So put a proposal together. Call your senators, call your representatives, tell them to go to the Senate, go and move this motion, and, you know, if it's successful, you have your free country. If not, we continue as we are. You know, you have your referendum. If your people have to decide first, okay, do we even want this thing? Because I've talked to a lot of people from that region, and most of them are like, what in God's name is happening? You understand? So you even first have to decide if the people in that region really want to go with you. Not, you know, not you just hire some crowd of people who are not employed and send them out to the streets to be making trouble. So get your map together, know the people that belong, put together a proposal, let people buy into your idea, lobby it, go to the Senate, get the right to run a referendum, and proceed. So that's my own idea of what should happen.
All right, very well, Najib. I'll come back to you in a bit, but Carol, let me just come to you. Yahya, sorry, I keep saying Oris. I don't know. I'm just used to localizing people's names. All right, Yahya, made mention of, the system of government that we operate, talking about how the Nigerian government is situated. But what do you think? Do you think we can change our system of government, maybe rotational presidency? Do you think this will quell some of these agitations, so to speak, now?
Right. First of all, I just want to touch on that we as Nigerians cannot blame anybody, the Westerners or wherever, for whatever problem that's happening in Nigeria today. We cannot blame it on the amalgamation. We cannot blame it on what the West has done. Nigeria is what it is today because of what Nigerians have done to Nigeria. In that respect, then about this system of government, rotational government, see, every part of Nigeria has been marginalized by the political elite. Whether from the north, the south, the east, or the west, there's no part of Nigeria you can go to today and say, oh, you can see a very, very sound government or development in that area. That's not the case. For instance, look at people agitating for Biafra. Go to Abia State. Look at what Theodore Oji there has done in the past 8 years. He has almost Abia State in the last 8 years is almost like the worst governed state in Nigeria. Now, what gives the benefit, or what gives the conviction that if you get Biafra, that Abia State definitely will be changed and it will be governed nice? Theodore Oji is an Abian person, and look at what he did to say. So it's not about the person or the system of government we run in Nigeria. We just need to get things right. Secede will not help. Rotational presidency will not help because we've had people from the north. Goodluck Jonathan was the president. It was from the South for the last 5 years. I can't see any reasonable development in the South in the last 5 years since he was president. So that's not going to help anything either. We just need to get the right people in the power. We need to get the right people to do things right, and we need to just move the Nigeria forward. Things about these regional things and all that. Look at Delta State. Ibori is still in jail. Look at what he did to Delta State, and he's from Delta State. So it's not about okay, let's have our own this, and then suddenly things will begin to change. No, it's not going to happen all of a sudden. There's nothing wrong with the system of government we operate in Nigeria. The presidential system, it's totally fine. It's just the people who run the system are going to build good institutions and right institutions for Nigeria. That's all we need. I'm not in favor of, I can't be in favor of us blaming other people for the problems we have in Nigeria. Ibori is not a Westerner. Theodore Oji is not a Westerner. Alamesia is not a Westerner. They are all Nigerians, and they ruin the country. Abacha is not a Westerner, and they are all Nigerians, and they're ones that ruin the country. So let's look inward rather than looking to blame other people.
All right, Carol, you are saying that we should look inwards for the solutions to these problems, and rather than looking outwards for the causes of this problem. But while Yahya, Najib and you were talking, Gotti was actually putting some things in the chat box, and the first he said, the message of Biafra is that the Igbos are hated in Nigeria. He goes on to say that they don't have it because they are not doing it for the interest of the region. And then lastly, he says all 6 geopolitical zones have produced a head of state since 1960. But that's like a peripheral, that's like the surface of what Gotti is trying to say. Gotti, I know you're a man of many words. Try to keep it as short as you can. We're running out of time. So yes, just kindly expatiate on these 3 things that you put in the chat box, while Yahya, Najib, and also Carol were making their own statements as to what they feel about this issue.
Yeah. Okay. So the message I was saying that the Igbos are not wanted in Nigeria, and we cannot mix words with this. It is the Igbos. A lot of the people who are agitating for Biafra are mostly the Igbos. Now the question is, some of them, like I said before, are saying that Biafra extends beyond the 6 or 7 states in Southeast. And then the question is that, okay, if you want to extend your Biafra to other regions, you haven't consulted the other people. So you want to enforce, you're talking about the oil and gas in the other place that you would use. I'm saying this based on the message that I have listened to the guy Nnamdi Kanu, who is actually the leader of this IPOP group. He has been saying, and a lot of all those things are actually fallacy, are lies, which are basically intended to push people against the government. And he's succeeding to a great length, because now he's in detention and the people are actually protesting. And a lot of all these protests are based on misinformation. A lot of Nigerians in fact, a lot of Nigerians are highly misinformed. Most people don't take the time to really understand whatever information somebody is giving to them. So they just act on what they hear. And that is why you see lynching can be done in 5 seconds, because you just heard that guy is a criminal and he just put higher and this, and you never ask a question. And this is the thing that is succeeding and helping these movements to go. They are selling the lies that the Igbos are being mass slaughtered everywhere. Nigerians are being killed everywhere. Igbos have states, and Carol mentioned Theodore in Abia State. Each of these governors in this state have not cried that they have not received their federal allocations from the government. And each of these governors in these states have the responsibility. Some of them are saying they cannot pay salary. Some of them does not understand how to regenerate revenue in the states. If they cannot fund their states, why are they fighting for more states? And if they cannot fund more states, why do they want a country? What are they going to use to feed the people? This is the economic part of it. They're looking at the political angle. Who are the people in the political terrain that actually are interested in seceding from the current Nigerian map and become Biafra. So that's why they don't have this map or they don't understand, because they don't have the interest of the people they are doing. These people who are fighting for it have an ulterior motive, and this is what the government needs to check. And talking about marginalization, all 6 geopolitical zones have actually produced people at the top. That is what I said in the earlier statement. If everybody is saying that we have been marginalized, then who are the people that actually have been running the government? Because you don't need to be a president to become a leader of your region. You don't need to be a state governor to become a leader, a political leader in your group. You don't need to be a minister. There are people who have other appointments, people who do other things that actually, if they are really interested in developing their regions, they will do that. That is the reason we have 774 or 76 local government areas. This is the reason we have more states, because you have to start from the grassroots. If the local government cannot function to identify the problems of the next community, the state governor will not know, because the state governor does not hear it from the councillor, does not hear it from the chairman of the local government. So if these problems are not addressed from the grassroots, you cannot expect the federal government to be able to come and in your village and make it the best road the world has ever produced, because they don't know. You have to be able to identify and address your issues. And if the people don't care and are only fighting for contracts and allocations that they will actually pocket and buy the latest Range Rover van, then you do not expect any development. So this is the problem. We have to identify, where is this coming from? If it is a genuine agitation, okay. Like I said before, there has been the national conference which was handled before. What were the terms? What were agreed in this conference? Was it agreed and every region was rightfully represented? I, for one, did not support the waste of time and money, but more people who were, I believe, are more intelligent or more educated than I have participated. What were the reports of those conferences? If we were to address these issues, that each region would not come up one day and start picking up arms and say, we want to secede from Nigeria. What were the terms of recommendations that will address these issues? If there is any, then maybe the onus is now on this present administration to look at it and say, okay, let us look at these people that is starting with this Biafra thing. Let it not escalate to Boko Haram, because we have the extended war on Boko Haram, because when it started, it turned political issue. The political leaders, they kept quiet because it helped to advance their own career. Perhaps the leaders in these regions now are keeping quiet because it could help to actually advance their own interests. That is why you don't hear any person, I haven't read that any leader in this group or in this region is coming and addressing this issue. There has been some talk about Southeast governors meeting with the leaders of the group, and then it was cancelled because there was nothing, this and that. So let them now address this issue, because talking about arms will be picked up. There's global terror everywhere. We cannot keep quiet and let people who are being misinformed by a particular person who is just talking. I have listened to the message on the internet and watched it, and I cannot say if this human being, if this person is really, let me not say that on air, but the message is so bad that you don't want to really think in this way, that somebody who is even fighting to be free, because when you have such hate in you and you finally succeed in going out of the region, how is it sure that you would not extend that hate to other minorities in that group? Because the problem we're having today is that people do not know where they come from and where they intend to go. We have the recent history of Sudan. After they have been agitated for separation, what has happened? It is not going to solve anything. If the leaders of the region are not going to come to a round table and say, yes, we are part of the government, Nigerian government have not stopped giving us our monthly allocations. Our state governments, we are actually doing this and doing that, and we are asking for money, and the government is not supporting us to get World Bank loan or World Bank project. Then yes, we are rightfully thinking in this way that the government does not want us to be part of the country called Nigeria. But then the question is, why aren't they doing that? Is it perhaps because they see some kind of, they do not believe in it? That is left for them to answer. So for me and for my own siblings and every other person who lives close to the region, we don't want our lives to be threatened or disturbed because somebody wants to be free from Nigeria.
All right, very well, Gordy. Like I said, I was thinking you'd keep it short, but then you went on and on and on till you hit the nail on the head. But that's fine. Yes, we're running out of time. That's why I was hoping you'd keep it short. But then, just before we go, Yahaya, let me come to. I keep calling you Oyes. I'm so sorry about this. But then you are where you say is a little bit of Europe as well as a little bit of Asia. But let me just come to you to get your last word before we wrap up this conversation.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, like I said earlier, this all boils down to the first of all, we inherited these institutions that we are running today. Maybe they must have metamorphosed over time, some constitutional reviews, some amendments. But the point I'm stressing on again, these issues of agitation, either in the form of Biafra, Niger Delta, Boko Haram, Arewa, whatever issue, it all boils down to resource control. You and I and every other person whom is well informed knows this all boils down to resource control. And like I said again, when you run a federal system with a country that has over 500 languages, there is need to be some certain level, there is need to be a minimal level of equal distribution of wealth. People claim the Northerners have been in power for how many years? The North is one of the most poorest regions in Nigeria, if you must know that. So people claim this. So in my opinion, when you have a centralized federal system in a country of over 170 million population, there are bound to be these agitations. Why not decentralize? You know, why not operate a decentralized system? If your region is not developed, you cannot hold the federal government accountable. You hold your political elites accountable. And like my colleague earlier said, these people Godi said they get their allocation. So you should hold your elites accountable. Don't bring it up to the federal government. Nigeria, as it is now, has a lot on its hand. There's a problem I earlier mentioned. Like you said, we don't have much time. I wouldn't want to go back into it. But in my opinion, the whole notion of Biafra, the representation of Biafran people's leadership or whatever, I think it's resulted from political, ethnic, cultural, and religious tension, which preceded Nigeria's decolonization, because they believe most upper hand were given to the Northerners. So this started from then, and since then we as Nigerians have been unable to resolve this. And the system of government, again, has further compounded these issues because the federal government decides which state gets which according to the number of population. So why not the states? We develop an imperative to generate our revenue and do what our states need, not what the federal government feels the states needs. In that way, you don't hold the central government available. You hold your regional or state government available for your own predicament. Thank you very much. I think I will give an opportunity to my other colleagues to add their own opinions and views as well. Let me not take much time like Mr. Godi.
Sorry.
No, Mr. Godi, it is very much educating to listen to your views. Now I have another different ideas about the whole. Thank you very much for your views.
All right, thank you, Oyes Yahaya. Once again, I go back to calling you Oyes, but your state is in the eye of the storm today.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, Kogi State is in the eye of the storm today. Perhaps maybe that's why I've been calling you Oyes, and I got. But yeah, let me just hold on and I come to Najib. Najib, but yeah, just gave his own closing statement. What will be yours?
I've virtually been repeating the same thing, but I'll take something from Yahaya. He said there are really genuine reasons why some people don't want to be in Nigeria. If you tell Nigerians that you can get them to reside anywhere in the world for free, about 80% of Nigerians will leave this country. If you promise them that I'll give you a stay in any part of the world you want to be, like 80% of people in this country will want to leave. There's poverty, there are lack of amenities, infrastructure. So there's a reason, there are genuine reasons why people don't want to belong anymore. But if you take this federation of a thing and you make federation, we keep saying the reason why we say true federation in Nigeria all the time, true federation, is because we are not running a true federation. If we are running a true federation, you won't have politicians say in a true federation. If we had real federal system where a region or a state was running as a unit, then you would know exactly how it would be if you remove yourself as a nation. Because you are virtually running as your own unit. So if you are not being run properly, then there's no need to leave the union. You understand? So I think Nigeria should start running a federation the way it should be, or we should just stop calling ourselves a federation. If we let, exactly. So let's run a real federal system so that when people see how it's being run, the only difference between belonging to Nigeria and not belonging to Nigeria will just be a name. You understand? Not real agitations as resources or poverty and all that. So let's run that real federal system and let these people experience what they would be experiencing in their own nation. Then let them decide. Then lastly, like I've said over and over again, have a manifesto, a sellable manifesto, a proposal that even I, who am from Edo State, if I read that proposal, I'll say, man, these people, they have to go on their way. Look at this, look at their reasons, look at what they want to do. You understand? So have a manifesto that is sellable, give it to your senators, and mandate them to go to the Senate, move a motion for a referendum, you know. So, and take it from there.
All right. You're still saying the same thing that you said, but you took a cue from Ois.
Yeah, yeah.
You took a cue from Yaya. Yes, Ois, I keep hitting you on that. But yes, thank you very much. But while that was going on, Gotti was also. I think Gotti seems to be the only one using the chat box today. But he says, "I live in a country where if you don't work in the main city, your income is very low. Despite those regions, despite that, I think those regions are still able to develop themselves to the same standard as the center. Tax level is same in all regions. Resource control doesn't always translate to development, like in the case of Nigeria." Okay, Ois, you're raising your hand. I'll come back to you. We don't have time. Abuja people are really, really on my neck. The producers are looking at me like, dude, you're out of time. So, Carol, let me just come to you also to get your own closing statement before we wrap up.
Well, this whole Biafra agitation, I don't believe it's for a good cause. I don't believe people who are agitating because they're marginalized. Because, like I said, no region of Nigeria, every region of Nigeria has been marginalized. I think these people just want something, and obviously they are going about it the wrong way. In the Niger Delta, militants have taken up arms for whatever reason in the past, and maybe because they've gotten that amnesty, maybe they want the same. I don't know, but definitely you can't call on violence against a state and then expect them to sit back and just watch you go on a rampage. So I hope this whole thing resolves quickly as possible, because we need to change Nigeria. We need to move Nigeria forward, and this is just on an unnecessary distraction to the cause that we are on. So I hope this thing gets resolved, and the elders of Nigeria, the elders of the Southeast, the elders of the South Side, and every part of Nigeria come together and make sure that we chart a course forward and move Nigeria forward, rather than dwelling on things that will cause more havoc and issues for us.
All right. Thank you very much, Caro. Thank you also, Oyis. Thank you, Najib. You're in Lagos. Godi, thank you as well. We're really out of time. We just have 2 minutes to close this. I would have loved to come to you to hear from you. And also, Yahya was raising his hands up. He wanted to say something, but then time is really, really not on our side. We have to wrap it up here. Actually, we didn't start at 12 as planned, but that's how we wrap it up on this edition of Channels Beams Google Plus Hangout. Yes, the Biafra issue was the main issue of the day. We had Oyesiya Yakubu from Istanbul, formerly Constantinople. Yes. Najib was calling from Lagos, Nigeria, Karo from London in England, and Godiwogu from Czech Republic. That's how we drop it today. Thanks once again. Until I see you next week, I am Victor Matthias.
Thank you.